One day, I found myself with a couple of hours to kill, so I decided to do what any reasonable man would do when he's bored. Play video games, of course. But what should I play? I was in the mood for some retro gaming, but I wasn't quite sure what exactly to play. Then it hit me. I've played so many games in different Nintendo franchises, but I've never played F-Zero before. I knew the game existed and that it featured some guy called Captain Falcon, thank you Smash Brothers, but that was about all I knew. So I booted up the Switch Online SNES thing where you can play old video games because I wanted to start with the very first game in the series. And I played the shit out of it. I beat every track on all difficulties in just one sitting. I've never in my life played a game like it. At this point, as any impressionable man would do, I wondered whether I could recreate this sort of gameplay in Unity myself. My friend Jewel and I created and textured this little plane model here to work as the player vehicle, and now it was time to program. It was pretty fun to drive around on the Mode 7 style track. Bumping into walls had a real nice impact to it. I threw in some water graphics from my game Vibrant Venture below the track to make it look less depressing. I've never really worked much with 3D before, so this was a nice experiment. Turns out, it's just 2D with another axis. But this was too easy, I thought to myself in the everlasting search for something that could give me a real dopamine kick. So I turned my attention to the latest and greatest, most modern entry in the F-Zero franchise, F-Zero GX from 2003. Yeah, Nintendo kinda doesn't really seem to give a shit about F-Zero, and they haven't made any new F-Zero games in nearly 2 decades. It's a real shame though, because this game is so much fun. You drive around at completely ludicrous speeds with barely enough time to react. Major parts of the game are brutally difficult, but it's never unfair, just really f***ing fast. Also, you drive upside down and on walls and stuff, and it's just really cool. This was the challenge I was looking for. Recreating F-Zero GX's physics in Unity. But where to even begin? As any clueless man would do, I consulted a search engine and stumbled upon a thread on the Unity forums asking this very question.
How in the world were the physics in F-Zero X done?
This post was referencing F-Zero X, which is the game that came before F-Zero GX, but the physics in the two games are nearly identical. Awesome, except for the fact that this post was 8 years old and not a single person had given a proper response. Brilliant. The only thing I could scavenge from the thread was this reply by some guy called Alleycat showcasing a hovercar driving around a low-poly mesh. His vague description of how it works simply stated,
"By interpolating between vertex normals, you can get the movement pretty smooth."
I have no idea what most of those words mean, but I looked in the video description and wouldn't you know it, our dear Alleycat had hidden a clue for the intrigued individual. He once again mentions interpolating between vertex normals, but this time he included this bizarre term called barycentric coordinate. Being the expert mathematician I am, I spent the next week figuring out what incarnation a barycentric coordinate is. The math gets pretty crazy, and some of it went completely over my head, but the most important discovery was this visualization of a triangle with a point that I could move. Notice how the value at each vertex in the triangle increases or decreases depending on where the point is. And that's it, that's the term our cherished Alleycat was referring to. And as it turns out, Unity raycast hits actually calculate this very property when a surface is hit. This was perfect. As you can see here, I was quickly able to whip up this visualization, and it's pretty clear that the red line smoothly moves along the low poly mesh, even when it crosses between two faces. And with that, I got to coding, and I present to you F-Zero pipe physics. Look at that, we can drive around the pipe and not fall off, and it's great! With Unity we can do great things, but why stop there? I slapped together a prototype racetrack, and despite how janky the physics still were, I realized how much potential this had. Jewel and I got to work on building a much better racetrack that looks like this. It's fairly compact, but it has wall driving, corkscrews, jumps, a pipe, and sharp corners. Then I spent the next few weeks polishing the physics and adding new mechanics like drifting, and I'm actually quite proud of the result, and I really hope you'll enjoy it as well. So I had done it. After 3 weeks of research and development, I had created a physics system similar to the one in F-Zero GX. I really hope you liked what you saw. I eventually messed around more with the lighting to try to create a more sci-fi synthwave aesthetic. I don't know how well I did, but this is the result. I'll let you be the judge. I couldn't help myself, and I spent way too long creating this countdown timer at the start of the race. I really didn't have to do this, but I just wanted to try it out and see what I could come up with. I also added boost pads, which currently are just these giant yellow blocks you drive through. Once you do, your speed increases for a few seconds and you go really fast. They also create some really cool speed effects, which are actually just particles projected onto the camera. And as you can see here, I also experimented with networking and got multiplayer working. That's Jewel racing me, and he's way better at the game than I am. If you look at the HUD in the top right of the screen, you can see that it shows you what place you're in, what lap you're currently on, your current lap time, as well as your best lap time. The lap system works by having a bunch of waypoints across the track, and you have to pass through each waypoint in order for a lap to count. If another player has passed a waypoint that's further ahead, then the game knows he's ahead of you and can calculate what position you're in. If 2 players are at the same waypoint, the game simply determines your place based on the distance to the next waypoint. Whoever is closest is further ahead. I also messed about with some AI, and you can see here that I'm using the waypoints to guide the AI player through the track by using some vector maths to determine whether the AI should steer left or right. This took way too long to figure out, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Finally, I wanted to test the F-Zero physics I'd created on a real-life road. So I went ahead and downloaded this mountain pass mesh and tried driving through it. And as you can see in the background footage, it actually works very well, proving that the physics system is indeed suitable for all kinds of tracks, not just the track Jewel and I made. So there you have it, that was my journey with recreating the F-Zero GX physics in Unity. Making this prototype proved to be very fruitful, as I learned a ton about 3D game development and networking, both of which I was previously very inexperienced with. I'm quite happy with how this turned out, and I might return to work on it again sometime in the future. For now though, I still have a 2D game to finish, and I really should get back to working on Vibrant Venture. Thank you so much for watching, please leave a like if you enjoyed, and until next time, take care.